Good afternoon, everyone. It's Graham Coath. It's MyMusic. And this afternoon, I thought I'd speak to Jeremy and Will about gravy, of all things, because apparently that's a nickname for one of them. You have to guess which one, but after this.
I need to get going, mate. I'll see you later.
So, guys, thanks for joining me.
Pleasure.
For those people that have sat at home guessing during the duration of that advert, which one of you is called Gravy? Which one is it? It's very clearly Willie Gravy. Oh, dear. You just want to appear on one of those programs like The Voice or something like that, just so that you can sit there with that as your title.
That's my calling for sure.
Yeah,
to be next to Simon or whatever his name is.
You guys look like you're coming from very industrial or really kind of man caves. Both of you today. Is this where all the music happens?
I mean, I'm definitely in an industrial area in Bushwick in a loft, but this is my room that I built many years ago. It's like I have to close the door in because I never know what's going to be going on outside. There's different people living here and running around, rehearsing sometimes and skateboarding. So once I have a door I can close and I can have my own space. It's just a little space. It's dark, but it works.
Yeah. And what about you? Well, where are you?
I'm in the lower.
Is that your garage?
Oh no, I'm in the third floor of a Lower East Side tenement building.
Right.
Very old, probably from 1890 or something like that.
Wow.
And I live with a married couple, Irish musician and his wife who's from Canada. And I've been here just since last October in COVID, but this is just a bedroom home studio. It's all I've got. And it's in the bustling Lower East Side. So I walk out the door and it's complete insanity.
Yeah.
From the minute I step outside.
So let me get this right. You're living with another married couple who are, a married couple who are musicians as well, and you've got a room in this shared accommodation.
Yes.
And you've got a studio in there. Did they have a studio as well?
No.
Oh, right. Did they try and nick your studio space?
No, this is actually Eamon, who's an Irish musician. His son grew up in this room actually, but he's grown now and out. He's a musician as well, but so I'm in his bedroom, his childhood bedroom. In an interesting twist of fate. Yeah.
Well, there's some stories just in that alone.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing. So listen, for both of you, where did music start? What was the first time that you can recall music being an important part of your life?
Why don't you take that, Jeremy?
Well, I come from a family in music, so I was in concert. Classical music is what my family worked in, and so I was at a concert. I think within days of being alive, being born. So I was surrounded by it constantly, so I just never even considered being a musician or not. I just always did play music. It just evolved into mostly drumming, which is what I'm doing these days. But it's been a windy journey. It's been fun.
Yeah. No, good. And what about for you, Will?
Well, I'm not from a musical family, other as players, but I'm certainly from one I grew up around a really interesting record collection. I specifically remember hearing the Doors' first record, that "Break On Through" is like a big moment of feeling like the power of, I guess, rock and roll or whatever.
Mm.
But strangely, the first big influence on me, I was given this making of River of Dreams, Billy Joel documentary, a VHS tape from my aunts when I was 5 or 6, and I watched it all the time. So in a strange way, Billy Joel is my most formative influence.
Oh, right. What was it about that tape that transfixed you, if you like?
It's hard to say, but I remember just hearing him talk at the piano, and he was very articulate about music, but he was so free at the keys. It felt like equally, if not more, articulate and eloquent in what he was saying at the piano. And it just something about that sort of the expression that felt so second nature. I remember that sticking with me.
No, that's really, yeah. I think we've all got those moments.
For sure. It seems like that. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. For me, it was I think one of the main ones was hearing A Brick in the Wall for the first time when it hit the charts. And because I used to do that thing where, as a child, and I don't know whether you ever did that. You're a different generation from me, where I used to record the radio.
I did that,
and the charts, but then I went back and did my own little intersections, announcing things myself. And but I can remember, so I made my own little chart, radio shows, and I can remember that coming in to the charts, and I was thinking, hey, this is a bit different, And suddenly I wanted to explore things that weren't just 3 minutes long. and just a pop tune, and that was really different for me. And then by sort of strange coincidence, my music teacher at school suddenly decided to start playing us Pink Floyd and seeing if he could turn us on to music in a different way. So in terms of figures in your lives that sort of then were influential in getting you into music or influencing where you were in music, can you think of any people, either of you?
Definitely for me, because since there was music all around me as a child, I didn't feel like I was choosing what I wanted to listen to. It was just like what was around. My family already also had a great collection of music. But the first thing like I discovered that it resonated with me in a very deep way was the band, their self-titled Brown album, and I just was completely obsessed with that. And I listened to it over and over, and I just remember staring at them too and just being completely just blown away, and got all the books on them and went to the library and found this article on them from a magazine from years ago. And that was the first big one. And that kind of led me to other areas as well.
It's quite an interesting album cover as well, because there's a lovely simplicity about that.
And there's a lovely simplicity to like their music in a way. There's a lot of depth to it. But coming from listening to like Jimi Hendrix and some other stuff before, that was a lot more outlandish, wild, psychedelic. It felt understated in a really cool way.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, you read I remember reading just Eric Clapton or Harrison, I forget who, like saw that cover and heard that record in the midst of this like psychedelic, whimsical insanity LSD trip, and it was just like this like salt of the earth thing, like right in the face of all that. It made it almost look silly, It's like amazing. It's totally amazing that happening.
Yeah, no, that's a great thing. We've got people listening in. Thank you, people, for listening in.
Hello,
Dream Theater.
What?
Or where that came from?
Really funny.
That's quite random.
Wow, I went to Berklee College of Music, and there was a lot of people that were very obsessed with Dream Theater. That's how I remember that band. That's funny.
So are you a Mike Portney fan then, Jeremy?
Not really. The proggy rock stuff that influenced me. I'm not so into that kind of stuff that much these days, but I loved King Crimson a lot.
Yeah.
And like Mahavishnu Orchestra and some of like the fusion prog stuff like that. But once the 80s came around, that stuff kind of, I don't know, it wasn't as exciting sounding to me.
Well, once it became neo-prog.
I don't know what the titles were, but I don't know. I just think that it wasn't as fresh and exciting. And Dream Theater that's a tricky one for me. I think, I don't know. The vocalist really throws me off too. I mean, Mike Portnoy is an amazing drummer, but I don't know.
yeah. I think you're either into that or you're not into that. I mean, nobody's doubting beyond the shadow of a doubt that they are amazing musicians, but it's not everybody's cup of tea, especially as a construction in terms of songs or whatever.
Teenage males, it's like great for like virtuosity. That kind of stuff is really exciting. I was there. I loved that shit. But the older I got, it became less exciting to hear people just go crazy with the technique.
Yeah,
it's still impressive though.
Yeah. So what? Any drummers that were particularly influential for you, Jeremy?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, besides like Levon Helm from the band, I was also getting into jazz at the time, and like the Miles Quintet and Coltrane Quartet with Elvin Jones and Tony Williams were totally blowing my mind, completely blowing my mind. Also, Joey Barron, who was doing a lot of stuff with John Zorn in the New York downtown scene. Who else? Sly Dunbar from Jamaica, the reggae master. That stuff was completely amazing to me too. So different from like Elvin Jones to Sly Dunbar to Levon Helm. That's kind of like a triangle that resonates with me a lot. And they're all very different kinds of drummers.
What about you, Will? And any kind of influences players wise?
Well, it's hard to get past. It's not so apparent in what I make, but just I think the freedom of Jimi Hendrix is always this kind of like beacon. And I have a very distinct memory of hearing Voodoo Child Slight Return, and like just the sound of that wah-wah intro being like sending me into sort of a zone of just that unknown world of sound that you can't even understand where it comes from. But in terms of more direct influences, Joe Pass, I had a big time with Joe Pass in high school. I studied him like hours and hours and hours, probably in like my most like almost militaristically focused time in my life. And I'm trying to think what else. The band was a big one for me as well. And anything by the Beatles, pretty much.
Well, do you know what? I really understand the band thing, having listened to your music. Because I think, and actually picking up on what Jeremy said in terms of the jazz drummers, I think space is quite important to you both.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's one of the fun things about being a duo is like you're inherently going to have space that you normally wouldn't have if you had a full rhythm section. So it's just like figuring out ways to play with that space is like the fun challenge of the band, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like space, and also that space allows for implication instead of explication or something like that, especially from the harmonic side. I'm very free we can move measures and beats around, and I can move harmony around sort of at any moment, which is
totally
the challenge that makes some new parameters happen and also allows for things to move in different directions every time we play.
Well, the trick there, and or the difficult thing, is balancing keeping the listener motivated, if you like, trying to find a better term for it, but keeping the listener involved and keeping the listener wanting to reach in and get more, whilst at the same time allowing it to, not be crowded, isn't it? It's.
I feel like I used to feel like I had some sort of connection with that idea of like what the listener wants. I think I lost that completely. I kind of now, when I'm working on my own music or music with Will or somebody else, like I feel like I'm just trying to figure out what excites me. But once I start thinking about what's going to excite somebody else, I feel like I'm just getting further and further away.
Well, maybe that's the trick.
Maybe.
maybe if you overthink it, then actually you start trying to. Because I think when you do produce music that does have space in it and it does work in that way, then actually you need to be quite selfish about it. I think actually when you start to think about it, you start to think about, well, do I actually put that in there, and do I put that in? That's when it actually then falls to bits and it doesn't actually work anymore. So
I wonder if maybe it's not so much imagining like in terms of style what a listener would want, but maybe like, because Jeremy, I'm sure you're guided by a sense of like maybe not so much like what people need, but like a sense of balance that you kind of intuitively think makes sense for like you as a listening fan, and that probably matches up with a fair amount of like general sense.
Right, but the point is, I'm thinking about it just from what makes sense to me, which is going to be connected to other people to some degree.
Yeah.
But once I really just think about, this is what the people like. They want it to be denser, or more space, or more fast, or louder. Like I don't know. I just don't know.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah.
People might want to dance to this. No.
I don't know.
Who? It's like who?
Yeah. Well, another influential band for me was Ween, and they're the band that's like completely like, why is that successful? Why were they signed to a major label? Why do they have a hit with their first single? It doesn't make any sense. Like some of these things just happen sometimes. and resonate out of the blue. And those are, I think, some of the more exciting ones for me, the ones that seem unlikely.
With your music, given how it's composed or the composition of your music, would you like other people to play with it in terms of other producers and getting people to see what their take is on it afterwards, or are you quite precious about it?
No, I don't think I'm precious about it at all. Like, you mean like working with a different kind of producer?
Yeah. Or allowing people to remix your music to and take another check on it.
I mean, as far as meeting a producer and trying to work with them or having somebody remix a song, I feel 100% open. But it might not go well, and I might not want to like release what they come up with or what we do.
What they do.
Yeah, but I'll try anything.
Yeah.
I don't know how you feel about that.
I'd be curious about a remix.
Yeah,
I'm not a big remix person myself, and not like things that I seek, but I'd be very curious what would happen with something like what we're doing.
Totally. I mean, yeah. Some of like the ways I compose music feels like remixing. I kind of like take little bits of this, turn it upside down, change the sound here, and then I have like a different composition. But so I resonate with the idea of remixing a lot.
Yeah. In terms of things like themes for your music, what sort of themes do you touch on?
Well, Will, go ahead.
Well, in terms of themes, we are certainly not a sort of literary narrative-driven band in terms of lyrics. They're very much impressionistic, stream of consciousness, more sonic-driven, I'd say in general. And then a lot of the, in terms of like the songwriting, I do think we try to have a balance. Like, melody is very important, and also we try to really explore the rhythmic capabilities of what we can do together. That feels like fresh ideas that can be a little disruptive and have some like tension to them, but still grooving. Like, that's something that I feel like we're always on that wavelength of like, how can we have this push and pull rhythm with like simple melodies above that to somehow balance.
So then, do you find that then developing themes as you write? Because I mean, you've just released a single, or a single's coming, but you've got an album in the can. As you write more songs and put that together as a collective whole, do you find you developing themes within that, or is it very much just each song in its own little world, if you like?
I mean, each record we have is pretty different so far. So I think we've been like experimenting, developing, excited about different things every year. So that it just naturally evolves. But these ideas you're talking about, like the simple, clear melodies, I think we always love that. And this sense of rhythmic counterpoint between the two of us that I feel is oftentimes somewhat danceable or groovy, but not like with the grooves aren't very like cliche dance beats, but I think they are still dancey. They're just I don't know, different. I don't know how to describe them.
We sort of like subconsciously or consciously avoid backbeats, which is probably why we're not better successful. but I think it's sort of for me, it's like this attempt to like be a rock band that's not rock at all, or something like that.
Sure.
Like sure. I want it to rock, but not have any of the sort of signposts of traditional rock in any way.
Well, the thing that makes me like bob my head is just pulse. It's not necessarily a backbeat or this certain groove or this certain, like, so I want pulse. And all our music for the most part has like a deep pulse. It's just we can play around with that and add bars or beats or syncopations, but there's always this like underlying pulse.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Coming sort of more up to date in terms of influences. Are there any sort of bands that are out there at the moment that are catch your ear as listeners?
I mean, like,
still stuck in bread territory.
No, I mean, like, well, this isn't a new band, but like Deerhoof, who have been around for like 25 years or something now, they always sound fresh and exciting to me with their songwriting, and production. You know, it's like always very exciting to hear them.
Oh yeah, consistently inventive and uncompromising. I'd say they never feel like they're trying to do anything but themselves, but it never fails to feel like a developing, changing organism.
Yeah.
Also, another band like that is Low. I've been listening to Low's new record.
Oh yeah, didn't they came out with a new record? It's good.
And they're just another inspiring group that's like sort of in another I forget what the other one I'm thinking of, but they've just been cruising along this path. And each record they're just like bringing all this new production ideas and songwriting ideas in, and they just like keep honing away at this thing as this group. It's cool, inspiring thing to see.
I
get that. Having listened to your music, and is that, I mean, for me, is that how you see yourselves? Is just honing away at that rock, trying to the next project that comes out is just honing it a little bit more and trying to get this thing, this beautiful thing, which is quite simple in some respects, but complex in others, just getting that just right.
I think so. And part of that's because it's the reality of who we are. And we don't have a sort of, the two of us, our personalities, our ideas, especially for me at least, like I don't have like a greater narrative of how to brand or, and I don't mean that in a bad way. Like even like David Bowie was so good at that or whatever. I'm just a musician really. And like, so for me, it's just focusing on that as much as possible. And like how to develop our playing relationship is like, for me, the guiding thing, and to just keep going with it personally. I have to say,
I love the YouTube as well. I mean, do you see yourselves as quite visual as artists as well? I mean, is that
not me, but I think Jeremy does.
Well, I do visual art. I have a photo project. I would make collages. I'm a very visual person, I'd say. Are you referring to the music video?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. That's this animator artist Clara Trevisan from Brazil. She made that, and she's wonderful. And I've worked with her now a few times, and I really resonate with her on a lot of levels. She kind of gets it. She sometimes gets the music that I send her in like more than I do. She seems to understand stuff.
So is that quite exciting for you as well? But watching someone visually build a landscape over what you've produced.
So exciting. It's one of my favorite things, really, especially when it's with somebody that's really amazing.
and just gets it, and doesn't.
Yeah, because I've done videos where I've done them completely myself. I've done them when I've collaborated with people on them, and I've done them when somebody else just does it completely. And when it's somebody else is doing it completely, it's like Christmas or something. You're just like, what's it going to be? And like, oh my god, it's very exciting.
Oh, I think that's quite a magical thing to do, and I think it's quite an art as well for someone to produce something that doesn't take away from the music. Because sometimes, even with pop videos these days, with massive budgets and whatever, you just think, well, that video is better than the music, and it's not complementary. Yeah, do you know what I mean? But it's not complementary to the music in a way.
Yeah.
It's So I think finding someone that complements what you do and actually, enhances it in a way, because it's
the next video that's coming out on the 30th, which Clara also did some animation and added some words to it, is I find almost boring. Like it's kind of not that much happens at all. It's like, and it kind of wasn't built to be an exciting video. It just kind of supports the music in this kind of light way. And I think that's great. Okay. It doesn't have to be this big explosions and special effects and crazy narrative. Like I kind of love that about it.
And water coming off the drums as you hit it with a stick.
Right.
Or anything bad.
Slow motion water, guys.
Yeah. Although perhaps you could just do a whole video of that now, just for the hell of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've got kind of an anti slow-mo song, or anti slow-mo video. Yeah.
Anti-slow.
That could be quite funny. So one of the things that would interest me with your music is how you could perhaps expand the sound as well. I mean, have you any thoughts going forward in the future as well of how you might work with someone else or with an orchestra or something like that to bring in extra sound to you, or do you see yourselves as always keeping just the two of you?
Oh, definitely not. I mean, and on our each record we've had different special guests, and I don't know. Yeah, I think. I mean, I don't want to speak for Will, but I feel like we're really excited to collaborate with different people.
Yeah,
it's just what that is. If that would be an orchestra or just a singer or a whatever, somebody else. I don't know what that is yet.
Is it? What I'm saying is, if there was a dream collaboration, what would that be?
Well, interesting question.
I would love to work with Rick Rubin.
Right.
And just see what because listening to some interviews with him, actually just this year is the first time I really kind of got into his head a little bit in his process, and being somebody that doesn't know anything technically about the studio, he's really into like just honing concepts and the right kind of songs and feel. And the fact that he never rushes stuff, you just kind of go to Shangri-La or whatever in Malibu and just like get inside his world and what he would think of what we're doing would be very exciting for me, because I have no fucking clue what that would be at all.
Well, just spending time in the swimming pool would just be great.
Yeah. And the band's old tour bus is back there. It's this little studio too.
Yeah. Absolutely. What about you, Will? Is there anyone you'd love to collaborate with?
I think Rick Rubin's Sauna would be my main choice. Yeah.
You guys would never get any work done. You know that.
Definitely not. I mean,
maybe a jazz musician. Is there a jazz musician in there that would be? Oh yeah,
definitely.
Hey, Craig Taborn just started following us and stuff on Instagram. We should work with him.
Yeah, there's a few that. I mean, Milford Gray. I guess that'd be complicated, but he was starting to collaborate with Sam Amidon before he passed in a really interesting way. It kind of crossed over folk music and avant-garde jazz in a very compelling way, I thought. Mm-hmm. It's interesting because there are dream collaborators. Like, I mean, I think it would be so interesting to play with Bob if we accompanied Bob Dylan.
Oh my God, yeah.
Like, that would be so fucked in a cool way.
I would love that so much.
But interestingly, for me right now, I'm actually most excited about us trying to work on some new stuff that's like as stripped down as possible, just the two of us, as little production as possible, and really just engaging on the two elements like, as directly as possible. So that's kind of where my head's at. But Bob Dylan would be pretty cool.
I think Bob Dylan would be pretty cool for most people, really. And I think part of the charm of Bob Dylan would be the way he deconstructs a song anyway. Mm-hmm. As a singer, and I think it's quite interesting because he's had probably about 8 different voices through his career.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
As a singer, it's not just one voice.
No,
it's different voices. But the way he deconstructs his voice to suit what he's doing in the song, it's definitely the song is the most important vehicle, not the singing.
Right.
Right.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that would be, I think that would be great with yourselves, because it would then be about how you create this thing around the, him.
Yeah.
Right.
And his particular style.
Yeah, and Bob Dylan, he's also obviously changed the bands a lot and kind of had more jazzy arrangements, bluesy arrangements, gospel arrangements, like reggae, funk. He kind of like picked different genres and kind of explored them, which seems awesome and healthy. But it'd be fun to work with him as like on these songs, supportive of the songs, but like not really based on any sort of specific like genre. Kind of look at it like from a more experimental kind of angle. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you want to. The one thing you want to do with Bob Dylan is not write a song for Bob Dylan.
Yeah,
you want it to be your music with Bob Dylan doing what Bob Dylan would do as a musician.
Sure,
which is interpret your music correctly. And that would be the fun part of it. And I think it has gone wrong in the past sometimes when with a famous collaboration where a particular person who's got that unique gift for interpretation has come in and has been told, I want you to sing like you on this and make it into a song for you. And then it sounds like nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I like that. I feel like deep down, Bob's kind of got some punk rock in him, you know.
Definitely. Yeah.
He has some FU energy. I like that. It's like doing the wrong thing is the right thing sometimes with him. I think that's a cool aspect.
Well, let's make sure we tag Bob Dylan in on on this afterwards. So who knows? Next year, Star Rover with Bob Dylan.
Yeah,
sounds great.
We're gonna play at the Glasgow Festival.
we can make a record. We can make a record with Rick Rubin and Bob Dylan.
That's going to happen.
Yeah.
There you go, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure meeting you.
Thanks for having
I hope
us.
you have enjoyed talking
very
about
much.
the music.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
Just so people know, where and when can people get hold of your material?
Well, the next single is out on the 30th on all streaming stuff. And then the record comes out on the 15th of October.
Which is a great date.
Yeah, follow Spotify, 6 Degrees Records, or 6 Degrees.
There's distributors,
Peppermint Olive Records.
Yeah.
That's right.
Is there going to be a physical format of it?
Not for right now, not yet. Until we have a good tour booked, I think we're going to hold off.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know where to put them.
But people can actually pay you and download it, can they?
Yeah, on Bandcamp.
On Bandcamp.
Bandcamp pre-order, and if enough people pre-order or say they want vinyl, we could be perhaps convinced. But we just, the economics are challenging. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and there's not enough people able to press records at the moment as well. So,
no, I know.
Exactly.
Yeah, that means you might have a 6-month wait anyway. So there you go, folks. If you want to support the artist, do go to Bandcamp.
That's the best way.
Is it under Star Rover on Bandcamp?
Yep. Star Rover Band.
Star Rover Band. There you go.
Yeah.
Check that in your Bandcamp. Star Rover Band. Pre-order the album, download it, pay some money for it. That's the best way, because that will pay for them to do a tour with Bob Dylan at some point.
As you can see, we have palatial estates here. But,
yeah, absolutely.
We could still use a little extra cash.
Just a little.
Jeremy needs another rung on his ladder.
That's right.
Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for joining me on MyMusic.
Thanks, Cam.
Take care
for now. Bye.
Ciao.
Bye.